This is going to be a video review of Iron Man 3. It's the third one in the series, hence the number 3 in the title. I'm going to go ahead and say now, spoilers, spoilers, spoilers everywhere. Oh my god, spoilers. Because I know the internet freaking hates spoilers. Like, what? Really? Why? But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was a really good movie. The first one was really good. The second one was okay. It wasn't as good as the first, but this third one was very good. Um, it was very dark, which was definitely implied in the trailers. But it was still able to kind of not exactly be lighthearted, but it wasn't like all doom and gloom either. You know, Tony had his funny moments. He had his kind of jackass moments, and you know, uh, it still managed to be funny despite being the darkest in the series so far. In this one, Tony is having to deal with everything that happened in New York. This is the aftermath of the Avengers. And as a part of that, because of what he did, you know, he took the freaking nuke and jetted into space and blew it up in space and nearly died doing it. In fact, he might have for like a second or two. We don't know. And so he's just having to deal with the psychological aftermath of that, which I thought was just really, really interesting, you know, to kind of remind us, hey, this character's human. You know, there's more than just the suit. There's this up here too, which I really liked. And I know that Robert Downey Jr. has um, a history of panic attacks. I know that he's claustrophobic, so every time he has to get into the full suit on set, he freaks out a little bit. And I think that might be part of why he did such a really good job just kind of portraying, you know, panic attacks and anxiety and triggers and stuff like that. And as I've said before, I suffer from those things. And it was just really almost kind of, I don't want to say endearing, but it was definitely more relatable and humanizing to see him, you know, having his fits. And sorry, I'm trying to find a comfortable way to sit. Uh, you know, having his attacks and all that. The first one happens, there's a scene, he and Rhodey are in a restaurant, a bar, and, you know, these girls come up, this girl and her brother, they come up and, sorry, cat's over there, they come up and they're talking to him, and, you know, Rhodey's talking to him about the Iron Patriot and all this stuff, and just trying to get situated, I'm sorry, I should have done this before. You know, just kind of reliving it, and then the kid, little brother, says something, I forget what, something along the lines of like, "How did you do it?" or "How did you get back?" or something like that, and it triggers him, just like boom, like that. And he had already kind of been anxious, you know, to start with, but just hearing the kid say whatever it was he said, I don't remember exactly, just set him off. He had to leave. It just the way that they did it was really well done, I think. And like I said, Downey's history with that might have been a big part of why it was done so well, but it's just things like, you could tell that it was too noisy, it was too crowded, he was starting to sweat, I'm sure that, you know, the character felt nauseous, and he had to get outside. He ran outside, got in the suit, and then almost kind of collapsed. You know, you see him hunched over in the street. And then, you know, he kind of makes the scene, and then he just gets out of there. And that was the first really good example of an attack, because they do that. They sneak up on you, and you could be anywhere. You could be at home by yourself. You could be in a restaurant full of people. You could be, you know, anywhere. Walking through the mall, flying in a plane, anywhere. I've had ones in the middle of the cafeteria at school that made me feel like I was going to die. So yeah, they happen anywhere and everywhere, and they are scary as hell. It's bad, and just the crew, the movie, and Downey himself, they did a really good job of portraying that. The second one, I believe, yeah, the second attack he had. He was in the little town where the Marine blew up the first time that wasn't related to a Mandarin attack, that they knew of. And, he's hiding in this kid's garage, and the kid finds him, and the little kid, always cute, blah, blah. And later, the two of them are out looking at the crater, the aftermath, the shadows on the wall and all that. And the kid says, hey, do you know what this great big hole reminds me of? And Tony's like, dude, don't do it. The kid says something, again, along the lines of, it's hair or a hole over New York City. And Tony's telling him, kid, stop, please. And the kid was kind of a shithead, I think. He keeps pushing it and pushing it, and it triggers him. He goes into a full-blown panic attack. I mean, Tony has to get up and physically leave the situation, and he rubs snow on his face just because he gets hot, and just you can see him shaking. That is a trigger. People have People have spoken before about what a trigger is, and that, I believe, is one of the better portrayals of a trigger. It could be something as simple as a word, like crater, hole, alien, or it could be just a situation or a feeling. Say you've been in a fight at a bar, and it went really badly. And then later, you're in a different bar, but the situation feels the same. That could trigger you. That could set you off. So that's why it's really important, especially on YouTube and Tumblr, to make sure that you let people know about triggers, so that if they feel the need to, they can avoid those things. But yeah, that was just another one that I thought was perfect in the way that they did it. But yeah, if anyone ever asks what's a trigger, bring up that scene, and because that is just in all essence, that is exactly what a trigger is. And then the third one, and the last one, I think, that I remember, was Tony's in the car, and the kid's talking to him on the phone saying that the suit isn't charging, and he has to stop her and get out and breathe. And that's another example of a trigger. Any little bit of bad news when someone's on the edge can set them off. And it seems ridiculous, and it is ridiculous to a point, but people like that have absolutely zero control over it. And, it's just I can't. Oh my god, I can't even. People say that, but that's what it's like. You literally lose the ability to function. And, so the kid kind of talks him through it, and he says, hey, you're a fixer, why don't you fix it? And, and Tony kind of gets out of it, he goes back. That would be, I guess, my only real complaint about the way that these attacks were portrayed, is that he seems to get over them very quickly. I know that everyone's different, but typically when I have an attack, it can take me anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour or more to get back to a point where I feel okay. For example, I had one last night because of all the stuff going on, medical stuff, wedding stuff. You'll see it in the video that I just posted. I'll put a link over there. Probably not. Anyway, and just, and like I said, it's different for everyone, but they almost made it look like if he just changed his mind, he could get out of it in that scene, and that really did bother me. But yeah, that was, I think, my absolute favorite part of the movie, believe it or not, was how well that they portrayed this illness, and it is an illness. So yeah, just that was done really well, and I applaud Robert for his work on that. I was very impressed, very impressed. Yeah. And another thing I wanted to talk about was the way the women were portrayed in the movie. Recently, I have been getting into, not exactly man-hating feminism. I'm not a feminazi, but I do realize that there are inequalities, and they need to be fixed. I guess I'd call myself like an equalist instead of a feminist. Point is, um, I have recently read about something called the Bedschel test, Bedchel. And what it is it's a test for popular culture things like television, movies, books, stories, stuff like that. And what it is it determines um, how well, it's a pass-fail, it determines how well women are portrayed in the media. And one of the examples of a movie that would pass would be Brave. And here are the criteria. There have to be at least 3 women with names. I think it's either 2 or 3 women. They have to have names, more than 2 women with names, and they have to have a conversation on screen for any amount of time that does not discuss men in any way. So, yeah, like Brave would pass because it's Merida and her mother, and then the woodworking witch. They do talk about the suitors, but more often than not, it's more focused on the 2 of them, the mother and the daughter, and their relationship. I could talk all day about Brave. It's such a good movie. I may do another one of these later about it, but that one would pass. Something like Aladdin would not pass because Jasmine is the only female character in the entire movie. She has no one else to speak to, and almost all of her time on screen is being spent with men, talking about men, dealing with men, so that would not pass the Bechdel test. Um, I'm not too sure about where the third Iron Man falls in that category, just because of how I need to look up the specifics of the test, but I think that it would pass because there's Pepper, of course, and then there's the former girlfriend one night stand, the botanist. I don't remember her name. The brunette. She's working for Guy Ritchie's character, and she developed this thing and all that. Anyway, but yeah, and there's a scene where the 2 of them. There's quite a few scenes between the 2 of them where they're in a car and they are talking about the guys. But that see, it's such a strange thing for me because it's kind of hard not to talk about the men when they are what is advancing the plot. But yeah, then they're in the car, they're talking about the dudes. They're in a hotel and they're talking about the guys. And then for a few brief minutes, Pepper starts talking to the brunette whose name I can't remember about just doing what you think is right and doing what's good by you and just trying to be a better person and stuff like that, just general good advice type stuff. And I think that if the minimum for the test is 2 women, then I think it would pass. But barely. I'd say barely. Keeping in that same vein, this is a huge spoiler, by the way. Huge freaking spoiler. I really loved how they had Pepper kind of as like the hero at the very end. I loved that. I thought that was awesome. Basically what happens is Guy Ritchie's character kidnaps her and pumps her full of the regenerative stuff. And if the body rejects it, she explodes. Yeah. But if it accepts it, then, she can regenerate and all that. And, they're holding her hostage, and then Tony and Guy Ritchie are outside, and their suits flying everywhere, special effects, and woo, it looks really cool. But there's a bit toward the end where Pepper is being held in, like, a storage container that's kind of suspended in midair, and, one of the cables holding the container up snaps, and then another one snaps, and so it's just kind of hanging there. And she's trapped under rubble, she's trapped under rubble in the container, and it starts to slide forward, and Tony sees from, like, a little walkway that it's going to slide into another container and crush her, like, smash her to bits. And so, as it's coming towards him, he notices, too, that the 2 remaining cables are getting weaker and starting to break. And so he has to go to the end of the walkway, and he tries to catch her, but misses. He doesn't catch her. And she falls about 200 feet into just a burning, twisted pile of metal and steel, and just it's bad. At that point, you think she's dead. And everyone just... It was really upsetting for me to see that. Just because I really like Pepper. I think she's awesome. Um, but anyway, so yeah, Tony gets all pissed that he's fighting the bad guys, and I'm Iron Man, blah blah. And so, what happens is they get down to the ground level of this boat thing, where the huge pile of stuff is, that Pepper fell into, and Tony manages to set Guy Ritchie's character on fire. Like, he pretty much blows him up. But because he's been pumping himself with this regenerative stuff for like 12 years, he's able to heal from that, believe it or not. Like, yeah, my suspension of disbelief only went so far with this movie. But yeah, it's just like, and so here comes the bad guy, and he's all glowy. He looks like a dragon or something like that. And Tony's on the ground, and he's trying to reach for a suit, but the suit's not working, and he's just like, shit, I'm gonna die. Nope, because here comes Pepper. She survived that fall, and she thrusts her arm into one of the loose arms from one of the suits that's been lying around, and she blasts Guy Ritchie to bits. And I mean just like completely fucks him up. I don't like to, I'm not gonna lie, I do like to swear, I don't like to swear in my videos, but she completely fucked him up. Blew him to pieces, he's done. Like, he's completely done. And, I love that. It was just so, it was empowering. It was just such an awesome feeling to see the woman who's usually, she's not exactly submissive, but she isn't quite dominant in their relationship either. It was just really, really awesome to see someone who started out as an assistant winding up being, a savior. She saved his life. And that was just the best thing about the entire movie for me. And just, and she turns around and she looks really angry. And then Tony, he calms her down, and just her first words once she realizes what happens were, "Oh my God, that was really violent." And that just, oh my God, that was really funny. I don't know why, it struck me as really funny. But yeah, I was very happy with the movie. I thought that they did an excellent job with, the way the women were portrayed, the way that, they portrayed anxiety and panic and all that, and it was a really good movie. I really, really enjoyed it, and I saw it twice. I may see it a third time, depending on money, but, we're broke. But yeah, it was just such a good movie. It was a really fun movie to watch, and just, I really enjoyed myself. There is some bad news regarding Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. has openly stated that he doesn't plan on taking up the character again, which is a little upsetting just because he does it so well. I can't see anyone else doing that character. Nobody. No one comes to mind. No one. Excuse me. But the reason for it is two things. One, he's gotten tired of being associated solely with the one character, and because he's a bit like Johnny Depp. He doesn't really want to be known as one person. So there's that, and I read somewhere that he is not happy with the way Marvel treated his co-stars in the Avengers. He made, I want to say, $2 million off the movie, where his co-stars were lucky to even break 200,000 for the movie. Which is just what? Really? I was very appalled. I was shocked when I heard that. And he said that he will not come back unless they cut his pay to even up the pay of his co-stars. And that's just the best thing ever. I have so much respect for him after hearing that. Because, it's okay, you're here, I'm here, let's even it out. How many people do that? No one does that. Nobody. And I think that is great. And I really hope that Marvel realizes that pretty much, okay, let's face it, Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark, in essence. He is Tony Stark. And for them to try to get anybody else to do it, it won't work. It will not work. I don't think. So I really hope that they come to an agreement on this. Just because the Avengers 2, I think he's slated to do the Avengers 2. He might have a contract, I'm not sure. But yeah, any other Iron Man that they decide to do after the second Avengers without him are going to flop. I can tell you right now. They're not going to do as well. But yeah, I've been talking for about 20 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you guys very much for watching and listening to my opinions, and hopefully being nice in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye! And, okay. My cat's trying to steal a pair of chopsticks I set on the table. Come here. You are going to say hello. See? This is my Loki. He's my baby. I'm going to cut this out and make that a separate video, I think. Don't you run away from me. Oh, fine. Go. She clutching just fell off the table. Anyway. God. I'm going to put that in like outtakes and stick it at the end. But anyway, yeah.